understand the issue of Mediterranean. CBD already published a very nice guidelines of 10 steps. Number one, you have to sit together, argue whatever you may know, have a brainstorming, but in the end, you have to agree on something, even 5-10%, it doesn't matter. But then you continue on and on until you detect any early warning and understanding the issues, and then you work together, and then you put the response, whatever. It is a process, in other words. But certainly, the issue of wildlife is very critical as well. We need to make use of it while we are in AMSEN, and I hope in the report this will be something very, very important as well. So we will go to the next panelist, Joanna from Liberia, to see the other wide spectrum.
Thank you. You just ended with my beginning, political will. I'm the executive director of the Environment Protection Agency of Liberia. I am the minister. We don't have a ministry, and that was deliberate. The starting point.
Your Excellency.
It gets mixed up sometimes, but where we start, I'm supposed to look at the opportunity for tackling biodiversity loss. We've heard the bad side, but also, if you are listening carefully, there's also some good pieces there where we can start. CBD, the convention, is a starting point. It has everything in it to make this start. The reality is the absence of political will. What I will do is just, I'm still sleeping, by the way. Thanks, Carmen.
You have jet lag.
I'm still sleeping. But what I will do is just pick out a few issues here and also bring it home, bring it to Liberia. I thank UNEP and WCMC for this effort. It's incredible. Liberia is in the area called the hotspot, biodiversity hotspot. We still have 43% of the existing Upper Guinea rainforest, which means a lot of animals live there, but they are threatened. Addressing biodiversity and some of the areas, some of the examples, for example, cross-boundary initiative between Sierra Leone and Liberia, between, there's the tri-national landscape also, Congo, Cameroon. So these are examples of initiatives that still give us hope. Another opportunity, law enforcement governance, FLECT, operating there. This will help in mitigating unsustainable logging, which we've been guilty of. Additionally, we established protected area network. Again, it's only as good as the implementation. So that's where we have to put more effort in how do you not just put protected areas on paper, but that they are working. There's an issue that just, an opportunity that World Bank is working on, biodiversity offsetting, which I find interesting, and they're about actually to launch the result of their work. It's basically how do you balance major economic development projects and conserve biodiversity. It's an interesting one. They're actually hoping to pilot in Liberia and Mozambique and see how far they can take it. Kenya is restoring the Mao forest. While some of the countries have made greater strides than others,
they are done for implementation. When institutions are put in place, they are supposed to put in place to act. But that is not happening. It has also been noted that in some cases there's silo mentality, even among governments. Typical example is our place, where I come from. We do have the Minister of Environment, custodian of water, custodian of wildlife, and also looking after climate change. But there's a ministry, one Minister of Mines, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Lands, parceling pieces of lands, reparceling it, sometimes coming up with policy as the minister. But we carry the burden of making sure that all the international conventions are done to the book. But that support sometimes becomes very difficult where policies of government and sometimes institutions of government are not going together with what they said they will look after, which is a puzzle. And which we can also say enforcement not deterrent enough shows the failure of institutions and policy implementation. Someone noted that enforcement is not deterrent, it's failing. What causes it to fail? Maybe interference of policies, maybe lack of zeal by those who run institutions to make sure that when you say it's a crime, it's a crime. If someone poaches, what happens to that person? And if someone says delayed judgment is as good as given, that you can do it as well. But that shows the weakness in our policies and in our institutions. And then the issue of citizen participation, unless we strengthen our policies and institutions to do that. We've got a good example of campfire. I think people have read about campfire. Zimbabwe is being the pilot, where we talk of communal-based looking after these resources, starting with the wildlife, forest, you name it. It takes 15 years, 30, 200 years for someone to preserve a forest, but when comes the development where someone does what is known as an EIA, which sometimes shows the good part of what is going to happen at the expense of what has been preserved. And participation of those communities to say a no is a no for them, and they better do with what they have conserved. Is sometimes weakened by mainstreaming, like someone said. Failure for people to make the relevant noise, the media, the politicians, the churches, the NGOs should make the relevant noise for those minority, marginalized communities who are being affected by failure of policy and institutions. I think the debate is here. We can talk to it. And what I was requesting from the report is to have a very good section on this one, where it can give us a, if it's possible, a spreadsheet. What are these policies which are there nationally, regionally? What are these institutions which are specifically for CBD put in place so far, and what is that they've done collectively? Where are they failing? And then maybe we can add value to the state of the biodiversity in Africa. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The debate is good. We can continue.
Thank you very much, Sharon from Zimbabwe. And again and again, challenge and opportunity still there. It's not only political will, but effective policies. Policies that lead to institutional reform, that lead to efficiency in the system. Examples like protected areas. It's not enough to have a network, but we need efficient management of protected areas. We need integrated management for all protected areas of Africa as well, in a way that we can actually conserve and protect these resources that they are very valuable. But the point that raised now regarding the political will and policies is not only ending in a policy formulation that can lead to a legislation. Marcel mentioned something very important. It is fine to have a law, but how to enforce it? This is the important thing, and this is a good example. We need to work together. Finally, we need information. Information that help us to take a decision and provide corrective measures to be able to go ahead as a plan. So, I'm sorry I forgot you, Aaron, and because we should have a big panels, you know, but I didn't forget my dear friend as from CVD. So if you have questions from you, that's fine with us. We can take it into consideration or like to go for lunch. This is entirely up to you. I mean, we can help here. But again, we can ask for 2 questions. All right. Again, our dear friend Bea. Okay.
Okay, I'll be very brief. I think one of the biggest tricks we're missing with biodiversity conservation, or conservation in general, is that biodiversity uniquely has the ability to increase. It's fruitful, it multiplies. If you give it space, if you give it habitat, it will come back. If you don't lose the genetic base and you don't lose the ecosystem function, it can recover. And we come to it from a conservationist mindset where we're trying to preserve what was there before, and that's no longer working. We're living in a world that's going to have 9 billion people. They all want to have middle-class lifestyles.